Okay, hi, I'm Jarrett Sherman. I want to take you through my company Digital Howard's first original piece of IP called Terracosm. And Digital Howard 360 Entertainment Company, we're based here in Toronto. We tend to touch many facets of digital and television production. But we do like the original IP space, and Terracosm we're pretty excited about. So this is my first time, it's just in beta, so this is my first time sort of speaking this in depth about it in public, so I'm sort of letting you guys all in, but take it away. I want to tell you about how Terracosm came to be, and I'm going to do that by telling you a little story. Flashback to 2013. Matthew McConaughey lost all that weight, Dallas Buyers Club. The new Batman was announced. You know how that turned out? I don't think it was his fault. Chris Hadfield sang Space Oddity from Space. Pretty cool time. And, it was a weekend, it was a Saturday, I was at home with my kids, and I was looking for something to do, and I suggested the Science Center, because kids need something to do. And they were kind of bored by the idea. They'd been there before, and they sort of done that, and so I left them to their own devices, and I thought, okay, they'll be fine. And they were. And I started to do some reading, and I came across a couple articles, and they were talking about STEM. I'm sure you're familiar with, how many people here know the concept of STEM? Okay, for those who don't, it's science, technology, engineering, and math. And it turns out that there's quite a crisis happening in kids graduating literate in the STEM fields. North America, there's articles from Germany, there's a lot happening around the world. There's governments and corporations who are really mobilizing to try and get kids into those fields because, as it turns out, for most developed countries in the world, those are the economic drivers that are going to be driving economies going forward. So there's a real mobilization to get kids to be interested in those fields. And I thought, okay, that's a pretty interesting problem to solve. How do you crack getting kids interested in science, technology? I mean, this generation of kids is born with technology, but how do you get them to be motivated to want to go into those fields? And then I remembered a tweet that I saw around the time that Leonard Nimoy died from NASA that was saying, Star Trek inspired a lot of us here at NASA to get into science. And I thought, okay, pretty interesting. Here's a TV show, not educational in the slightest, pure fiction, that inspired people to take up science as a career because of their emotional attachment or their story and characters and that kind of thing. And I thought, why couldn't we do the same thing in 2016 with technology? My own background, I came up in the business at TVO Kids. I'm a director and producer. I came up there at TVO Kids and CBC Kids, and I learned a lot about how to get kids into the tent when it comes to educational content. And a lot of that is about wrapping it up in entertainment and making it feel like entertainment and really bearing the educational stuff so it doesn't reek of education, because kids, when they're in school all day, when they come home, when they're in their free time, they don't want to feel like they're being taught. I mean, we all sort of know this instinctively, but kids want to be entertained. And if there's an educational core to that, so much the better. And if they don't know that it's there, fantastic. So I thought about this. I have a business partner who I do a lot of creative development with and business development with, and we sort of batted it around and agreed this was an interesting problem you might want to try and tackle. And we came up with a mission statement. And the mission statement was really sort of, it's kind of in my guiding ethos, sort of in kids' entertainment in general, but it's, in this case, to ignite the spark of curiosity in the STEM fields without it ever feeling like an education to the kids playing, to kids participating. So we batted around creative approaches to what this could look like and how it could work. And lo and behold, we came up with Terracosm. Terracosm is an app-based mobile gaming experience that uses augmented reality and virtual reality to introduce kids to fundamental STEM concepts, all in the context of gaming and story. And kids play it at the Science Center, and if all goes well, kids will be playing at the Science Center around the world. It's a lot like, in many respects, it's not that far off from Pokemon Go. It's got some fundamental differences, and I'll take you through a couple of them. The first thing is there's maybe a deeper story than Pokemon Go setting it up. And the story is Ulysses Wolf, scientific adventurer and explorer, has discovered a way to access the multiverse. And In the multiverse, he's discovered that the laws of science are slightly different from how they are here on Earth. In the multiverse, multiple alternate universes, so multiple worlds with multiple slight variations in the laws of science. And he sent through his ion probes to go and map 4 of these worlds and find out what he can, but he's lost all contact with them, and he needs your help to get them back before it's too late. That's the setup. And the game is played. There's 20 of these decals around the floor. They're scattered across the floor of the Science Center, different levels, different areas. They're about 3 foot diameter. And each one of those is a trigger. You scan with the app, and it launches you into an individual level of one of 4 missions. And there's 20 of them, so there's 5 levels to each of the missions. As kids approach the portal, they pick up the phone, they scan it, and they're launched in. And that's different already from Pokemon Go, which requires you to be using the phone to find everything. You're really in the world of the phone the whole time. And with ours, you're spotting things with the naked eye. There's a bit of haptic feedback that tells you when you're close to one. And you pull out the phone, and then you scan, and you enter the game world. And our approach is to use in-device AR and VR. We don't require an Oculus or another piece of hardware. And really, that comes from the idea that science centers, they see, as you know, they see a huge range of kids from all socioeconomic classes. And we wanted everybody to be able to play, and everybody to be able to have access to it. So we did it because most people have a device, and some centers have loaners and that sort of thing. So it's an easier way to access. Also, an Oculus type of situation doesn't really line up with the play pattern at a science center, which tends to be about sort of following your nose and wandering around, and you can't do that when you're tethered, and we don't have stations. And so we wanted to really layer over top of the existing science center experience and not dominate it. So when kids find that the level of the game they play at each portal is a very short duration thing. You can find one, scan it, have the experience, put the phone away, move on, do whatever you're doing until you find the next one. And the other part is that it's non-linear. You don't have to find these portals in any order. You can, as you encounter them, you can play it. The app logic will serve you up the next level of the challenge, of the mission, and move you along through the game. So it really does, it's designed to integrate into the existing Science Center experience and play pattern without requiring any adjustments to the way that patrons encounter the Science Center. And the STEM part, is that playing? Yeah, that's one of our games. The STEM integration, this is Aeron, and you're flying a glider through these steam vents. You've got to stay up in the air. The hot air keeps you up, and that's how you stay aloft to get to the end. And that's how we're integrating STEM. That's one of the ways, is just by using the concept to power the game. So hot air keeps you up in the air. That's a very basic way just to have a very simple principle come across. And what you're collecting ultimately in each of these, the pieces of the broken ion probes, and you're collecting in this one 4 elements of this probe that are related to flight. I'll show you. This is another game. This is called Microbia. You're assembling basic elements at the subatomic level, the atomic level. We have these collection screens where you can see what you've collected and find a little bit of information about what a compass does, what an altimeter does, what the pitot tubes do, those sort of things. So very small, nuggety, sort of low impact, but all geared towards just making you think, oh, that's kind of neat, or that's kind of cool. Just inspiration is really, we tout this as a non-educational experience. So why Terracosm? And it's an interesting question. Early on in our research, we discovered an article in American Scientist called the 95% Solution. And the 95% Solution talks about Americans, but it really translates to, I think, North Americans, probably most of the world, which says school is not where Americans learn most of their science. You spend 5% of your life in the classroom and 95% of your life outside the classroom. And there needs to be better ways to get scientific learning across in casual learning environments. And that really is the Science Center sort of ethic. Their approach is hands-on, casual, it's not didactic. You can drill down, but it's not hardcore didactic experience. And that really lined up with my personal approach, my whole Kids TV background approach, which is let's make this fun, let's make this engaging, and then let's make sure that there's something good in there that's not too heavy-handed. We don't want to beat anybody up with education. And that ethic of that powered me through all those years in kids entertainment really started with Sesame Street, which was their early TV parodies and their commercial parodies, especially when the show launched. They were groundbreaking, and yes, they had educational underpinnings or social underpinnings, but they presented to the kids, certainly of that age group, as pure entertainment. It didn't come across like they were learning anything, even though you watch it as an adult, and it's clear how obvious the educational content is. A little more research showed us that museums and science centers, as Nigel was saying, are suffering, just like every other industry, the disruption of the attention economy, that attendance is on the decline. They're telling us that kids are walking into the science center with a smartphone in their hand, and oftentimes they can't compete with what's on that smartphone. It's just more engaging, or kids more engrossed by it. So we thought that using the mobile device, this thing that kids are so enamored with anyway, as the driver to power you through this experience was good, and the science centers that are on board agreed with us. So we developed a sustainable business model that was going to allow us to keep it running. We're up and running now in beta at the Ontario Science Center, and we're going out to 3 more pilot centers in Columbus, Arizona, and Shreveport between now and the end of the year. And then we're taking Terracosm to market, and it's designed to scale. It's designed to integrate into any science center. It's not bespoke. And we're ready to go. And from here, we've developed a basic merchandise program that goes with it that will scale as Terracosm scales around the world. We've got a program that we're developing 200 days of the year. Science centers, their primary traffic is school groups. And when school groups come to science centers, they tend to come on a field trip to satisfy a very specific curricular need. They're coming there because they're doing a unit on UV light or electromagnetic energy, and they have to qualify to the board or the school why they're making this trip. So we've got the same infrastructure, the same decals on the floor, and the same app. You can flip a switch in the app and now serve up a whole new set of missions that are very much curricular. So that school groups can come through and now play those missions and satisfy that requirement or that need. But for me, I think it's just a more fun, engaging way to learn about electromagnetic energy or UV light or what have you. Also, we're developing Terracosm, that story engine that I told you about, the multiverse and the different laws of science in every alternate universe. It turns out it's a great story engine for comic books and a television show because it's very episodic in nature. So we're now developing it for television and for comic books. We're developing subsequent seasons of 4 missions that we've got now that are very non-curricular, very light on education, that we can update the missions every year and keep it fresh for the science centers that are on board. And we will start to look towards porting it. Now that we're up and running, we've got the platform, now we're seeing that there are opportunities for adding an Oculus, a more immersive VR experience, not as the main experience, but as an addendum to what you're doing in that experience. And that, in a nutshell, is Terracosm. So thanks for listening and taking the time. And don't come to the Ontario Science Centre just yet, because it's still pretty buggy. But yeah, maybe by the end of the year, it'll be a good experience for everybody. So thanks.